Okay, so in continuation of our discussion for estate tax, so we've discussed na the gross estate, how to value gross estate, and what are the inclusions and exclusions in the gross estate. We have discussed na din allowable deductions, so what are the allowable deductions from the gross estate. So by this time, we'll be discussing na how to compute for the net state and state tax of married and unmarried resident. Okay? But we'll start muna with a discussion of a net state and state tax of an unmarried resident. So, pag unmarried resident, hindi lang kasi naka-complex. So, kasi you'll need to determine lang the gross estate, then you deduct ordinary deductions, then special deductions to arrive at the net taxable estate. No? Then you multiply lang with the state tax rate, which is 6%. Okay, so kasi before before the train law, we've been using graduated tax table for state tax, but effective January 1, 2018 sa train law, yung state tax rate is 6% na. No? So net taxable estate times state tax rate, you'll get na state tax. So as an example, so we have here problem, no? We'll start muna with the computation of net state and state tax due of a non-resident alien resident. So, to recall, diba, NRA or non-resident alien resident are taxable within for properties within the Philippines only, and they are allowed to deduct proportional deduction of claim against the state, claim against insolvent person, losses, indebtedness taxes per rata between the Philippine gross state and the world gross estate. They are allowed also property previously taxed, PPT, or in transfer for public use for as long as those properties are situated in the Philippines. And they are also allowed to claim standard deduction and net share to surviving spouse if married. So we have here information related to Mr. Ha Bulin, a Korean national, died in South Korea. He has a tangible and intangible property gathered. 10 million are found in the Philippines. So, yung world gross estate niya is 30 million. So, yung nasa Philippines lang is 10 million. May claim against the state siya, claim against insolvent person, and unpaid mortgage amounting to 3 million. No, and also my part of the property gathered property that is to be transferred to the Philippine government in accordance to or deed and will amounting to 5,000. So to compute, no, so as I said kanina, NRA are taxable within the Philippines only, or for taxable sila for those properties within the Philippines only. So we have 10 million lang in the gross estate. Yung deductions niya, so proportional deduction ito. So the amount of claim against the state, claim against insolvent person, unpaid mortgage, times 1/3. So bakit 1/3? Kasi Philippine gross state over world gross estate. So this is actually 10 million and 30 million. So the lowest term lang. So 3 million times 1/3, we have 1 million. Also, since may transfer for public use siya, then yung property nasa Philippines, then pwede siya i-claim sa deduction at 500,000. And also, we have standard deduction of 500,000 also. So, the net taxable estate is 8 million. That is the gross estate minus the deductions total. Then, multiply mo with the state tax rate of 6%, then you have your state tax due. Okay? So, that's the computation of state tax due of an unmarried, non-resident alien resident. Next naman, we have here ito, another illustration, but particular ito with resident citizen or RC or NRC. So Mrs. Tatigo died on March 2018, so leaving a gross estate of 80 million, including a land inherited from his uncle on October 15, 2014, in a car donated to him in April 2012. So the following properties pertain to the following data pertain to the two properties. We have for the land and for the car. So the decedent was able to pay 1/2 of the unpaid mortgage on the land before his death. So nag-claim siya na deductions, na expenses, losses, and taxes, excluding the unpaid mortgage above, but including actual funeral expense of 3 million medical expenses. Okay. 12 million. Transfer to the national government, just included in the gross state, 3 million. And a family home, included in the gross state, also amounting to 20 million. Okay, so since if my data related to inherited property, then of course you are to compute for the vanishing deduction for as long as it qualifies for the requisites. Okay, yan. Um, so before we'll compute for the vanishing deduction, let's check muna. So asa ang mag-qualify sa vanishing deduction? So we have two properties, diba? We have the land and the car. So if i-check mo ang number of years, diba? So land and car, ang land from October 15, 2014 to March 20, 2018, the date of death of the decedent, that's more than 3 years lang. Pero itong car, which was related to him on April 20, 2012, up to March 2018, that's more than 5 years. So, di na siya allowed of vanishing deduction. So, we are to compute lang for the vanishing deduction for the land. Okay? So, before computing vanishing deduction, we'll determine muna the adjusted multiplier. So, take note that ang multiplier, basta mag-compute ang depreciation are the LIT, ng losses, indebtedness taxes, plus unpaid mortgage, plus transfer for public use. Okay? So, you have unadjusted amount of 12 million. No, diba? So, it excludes the unpaid mortgage. So, we'll determine the unpaid mortgage. So, since sa land, he was able to pay 1/2. So, may 1 million man yon. So, 500,000 na lang yung unpaid mortgage. And then, wala mang data as to nabayaran ba ang unpaid mortgage sa car. So, the car is, may unpaid mortgage din na 500,000. So, a total of 1 million. And we are also to add transfer for public use amounting to 3 million. Then, hindi included sa multiplier funeral expenses and medical expenses. And take note also that the funeral expenses, judicial expenses, and medical expenses are no longer allowed as a deduction from the gross estate. No, kasi before, sa train law, pwede ka mag-claim ng funeral at medical. Okay? So, we have adjusted multiplier of 7 million. Okay? So, we have value taken 12.5 million. So, bakit 12.5 million ito? That's, di ba, value taken is whichever is lower between the fair market value upon receipt and fair market value upon death. So, since was lower receipt, fair market value upon death, so we'll use 12.5 million. So, and then mortgage paid, that's actually half of 1 million. So, you have 500,000. It's the first deduction. So, yung initial basis mo is 12 million. So, proportional deduction, di ba? So, we have our adjusted multiplier naman na 7 million, then, diba, that would be initial basis, which is 12 million over gross estate of 80 million times 7 million na multiplier. So, your second deduction would be 1,050,000. Then, the final basis is 10,950,000. So, the rate is 40% kasi 3, more than 3 years, so 40%. So, the vanishing deduction is 4,380,000. Okay? Next naman, mag-compute na tayo ng net taxable state and state tax due. So, you have gross state, diba, of 80 million. Then, we have vanishing deduction, 4,380,000. Losses and indebtedness taxes, 4 million adjusted. I think this includes 12 million minus 3 million and 6 million plus yung unpaid mortgage na 1 million. Okay? It's actually 4 million. Then, we have transfer for public use amounting to 3 million. And yung family home mo, maximum amount lang kasi is 10 million. So, you'll deduct lang 10 million. And also, standard deduction. So, ang standard deduction, even though wala mention sa problem na automatic. No, may standard deduction ka na 5 million. Okay? So, the total deduction is 26 million 380,000, okay? And then the net taxable estate is the gross estate minus the deductions. You have 53,620,000 as your net taxable estate times the tax rate. And you have a state tax due of 3,217,200. Okay? Yan. Okay, so in continuation, we'll proceed now with the state tax due of a married resident. Okay, but before dwelling or discussing state tax due of a married resident, let's discuss muna the regime, the conjugal partial of gains and absolute community of property regime. Okay, so the determination of the gross estate of a married resident shall depend on the system of property relationship governing the spouse, which may be either absolute community of property, conjugal partial of gains, complete separation of property, in any other regime. Okay, kasi we need to classify what are the exclusive property and the conjugal or communal property of the resident. Kasi what to be included in the gross state lang is yung exclusive property ng resident plus the share niya, or plus the total, the gross state includes exclusive property of the resident plus the total conjugal or communal property. Okay? So, ang rules in determining property of relationship, of course, mag-base siya with the agreement. Okay? The prenup agreement. Agreement on marriage settlement. However, if there was no prenuptial agreement between the husband and wife and the marriage took place on before August 3, 1988, then we have conjugal partial of gains. However, if the marriage took place on or after August 3, 1988, then we'll be using absolute community, absolute community of property. Okay? So, but that doesn't mean, Hana, if minyo mo, nag-minyo after August 1988, di na pwede mag-conjugal partial of gains. So, mag-arise lang niya if walay prenuptial agreement. But, if mag-minyo ka, so pwede lang ka mag-decide kung unsa na regime. So, kanilang, if there is no prenuptial agreement, then ma-follow niya siya na rule. Okay, so, this is actually a summary, of the property relationship between the spouses, So what are to be included in exclusive property and conjugal property, okay? So as a rule, pag conjugal partial of gains, yung exclusive property mo before marriage, or yung property mo before owned and before marriage will still be part of your exclusive property when you get married. However, all properties acquired except for inherited during marriage, makonsider siya as communal property. Yung absolute community naman, yung property mo before marriage, or yung property na gidala niyo sa kaminyo on, ma-form parts of communal property. But there are some exemptions, okay? So let's discuss lang the summary. So, if property acquired siya before marriage, per gratuitous, may it be donation or succession, again, basta conjugal partial of gains, exclusive siya. Kasi whatever property owned before marriage will still be an exclusive property sa imo, ha. Pero pag absolute community, yan, property owned before marriage, ma-form parts of communal property. Pag honoris transfer naman, or meaning acquired siya, of course, before marriage, is still exclusive for conjugal partial of gains. Pero pag absolute community, of course, siya, communal property. Okay? So, ito is actually an exemption, particularly sa absolute community, where the spouse has a legitimate descendant from a previous marriage. So, pag naakay previous marriage, na naminyo kag-usab, So, katong property nimo sa previous marriage, exclusive siya. Siguro, that's actually protection of your children from the previous marriage. Okay? So, exclusive siya. So, this is actually exemption na dilita ng property na acquire nimo before marriage. Mahimo siyang communal property under absolute community. So, pag property acquired during marriage, pag gratuitous title, okay? Yan. exclusive. All property acquired during marriage, exclusive siya for both. Pag honorous title, that's conjugal, under conjugal partnership gains, and communal naman pag absolute community. So, if may barter ka or mag-exchange ka ng property, in exchange of exclusive property, then exclusive din yung property na ma-receive mo. However, if unsa imong exchange mo is conjugal or community property, then conjugal and community property then imuhang ma-receive. Okay? Ito ang income, fruits or income from exclusive property. Okay? So, sa conjugal partnership of gains, ang tanang income kay conjugal. Whether fruits siya from the exclusive property and fruits siya from the conjugal property, the income is always conjugal. Sa absolute community naman, parallel. If the property is exclusive, the income is also exclusive. If the property is conjugal or communal, the income is also communal. So, tayo siya, no? The highlighted in yellow are the rows differences between the two systems. No? Then, jewelry shall form part of the communal. No? Kasi yung mga personal belongings, no, na specific sa each, for example, yung bags na pambabae. Of course, exclusive yan sa babae. No? There are mga shoes na pang lalaki, of course, exclusive din yan sa lalaki. However, pag jewelry is normally, pag pambabae, hindi siya considered na exclusive ng babae. Ano siya? Part of the communal property. Okay? Yan. So, ano naman, ito, ang formula for computing state tax of a married resident. Okay? So, we have here, diba, split natin yung cross state into exclusive properties and conjugal or community property. Then, you have here the allowable deductions, no? So, as a rule, if ang deduction is pertaining to the exclusive property, then deduct mo siya sa exclusive property. If ang deduction is pertaining to the conjugal or communal property, then i-deduct mo siya sa conjugal or communal property. Okay? Yan siya. So, we have here the net state before special deduction. So, net exclusive and net conjugal or common property. No? So, we have special deductions, family home, 10 million, salary reduction, 5 million, benefits received under RA 417, and then share of the surviving spouse. Yung share ng surviving spouse is actually 1/2 of the net conjugal or community property. So, then you'll get your net taxable estate times state tax rate, then your state tax due. Okay? So, you have here, as a general rule, obligations contracted during the marriage are presumed to have benefited the marriage and are chargeable against the communal or conjugal property. So, ang vanishing deduction may be deduction against exclusive or communal. So, depende, di ba, kay there are deductions na dapat na sa gross state for it to be deductible. Say, for example, losses. So, ang losses, depende kung asa ang property. If property nasa exclusive din, exclusive ang deduction. If property nasa conjugal ang deduction. Okay? Same thing with PPT. Property previously tax. Kung asa exclusive ang deduction. Nasa conjugal ang deduction. Ang transfer for public use, no? Pwede siya exclusive, pwede siya conjugal. Pero pag silent, exclusive. Okay. No? A deduction whether against exclusive or community property or conjugal state follows the classification of the property in the gross estate. So, yun yung sabi ko kanina. If the property to which the deduction is related to exclusive property in the gross estate, the deduction is against the exclusive gross estate. If the property which the deduction is related is community or conjugal property in a gross estate, the deduction is against the community or conjugal gross estate. No? But if maglisod ka identify kung asa siya, deduction siya sa common property. Okay? So, we have an example. So, example muna tayo with yung property relations. Ito. Yan. Lovely married to a 60-year-old lawyer, Andy, who has a daughter in previous marriage. Okay, so the spouses had the following properties. So before marriage and during marriage. No, so first we'll compute for the separate property of Lovely and the gross state of Lovely, assuming conjugal partnership of gains. So under conjugal partnership of gains, 'di ba? Property mo before marriage, would still be exclusive property, 'di ba? So since we're computing for the gross state of Lovely, then part exclusive property is yung property lang ni Lovely, which is 400,000. So yung 4 million na kay Andy, yun? Exclusive yun ni Andy. Okay? And since, di ba, we're computing for the gross estate, the gross estate is actually the exclusive property of the decedent plus the part of the conjugal or communal property. So yung 4 million, exclusive yun ni Auntie. Okay? So, ang income from separate industry, no, that's actually conjugal. So, conjugal yung 2.2 million. It's 200,000 and 2 million. Ang income naman from properties brought into marriage, again, so as what I've said kanina, all income is, all income are conjugal property, under conjugal property means. Yung inheritance and donation received, of course, yun siya, exclusive, under two systems, di ba? So, yun. Itong kay Andy, 500,000, exclusive yan ni Andy. So, you have 450,000 lang. So, the total properties, no, na exclusive is 850, and the conjugal is 2,980, and the gross state is 3,830,000. Okay? Next naman, ito tayo, what if absolute community, no? So, pag absolute community, yung property ni Lovely na owned before marriage, ma-form pa siya sa communal. Okay? But itong property ni Andy, di ba, if ang property na acquire mo, if property mo, na you have property before marriage, na from, galing siya sa previous marriage, yung property is exclusive. Okay? Yan. Itong income from separate industry, that's always community or conjugal property. Yung income from properties brought into marriage, no? So, di ba sa absolute community, mag-parallel. So, yung 80,000, since ang property is conjugal, or community property, dapat community property ito. Property is community property, and then, community din yung, or communal din yung income. Communal yung income. However, di ba, itong 4 million is exclusive ni Andy. So, exclusive din niya yung income. Okay? Yan. So, yung inheritance and donation received, yung 450, exclusive yan ni Lovely. Yung 500, exclusive yan ni Andy. So, the gross estate, or the exclusive property is 450. The conjugal is 2,680. And the gross estate is 3,130,000. Okay? That's for absolute community. Okay? Okay, so next illustration natin would be a computation of estate tax due of a married resident. Okay, resident citizen. Okay, a married resident living the following property. We have community property, 50 million, exclusive property, 30 million, community ordinary deductions for 5, and exclusive ordinary deduction is of 8.5. Among those included in the exclusive property were the following: a piece of land inherited from a resident's father who predeceased him 3.5 years ago. Fair market value at the time of inheritance was 8 million, no mortgage, indebtedness, and fair market value at the present resident is 9 million. This was mortgaged during the marriage of the benefit of the family for 3 million, which was paid by the resident before he died. Car which was received as gift 18 months before the resident death. Fair market value of donation of 5 million, and fair market value of death is 4 million. Family home as certified by the barangay captain in the locality where they were situated is 12 million. So take note that all that property kay naa sa exclusive properties. Okay? So now let's compute muna for the vanishing deduction. So yung vanishing, we start with the land. So ang land, whichever is lower, di ba? 8 million at the time of inheritance, then 9 million at the time of death. So 8 million yung gamitin natin. Less mortgage paid. So wala siyang mortgage paid. So you take note that yung mortgage paid, i-deduct mo dapat na apil mo o kuha pag inherit, no? Ang kanibong 3 million na mortgage, na mortgage din mo siya after the receive mo property. So, di na siya pwede i-claim, di siya pwede i-deduct, no? As deduction for computing the vanishing deduction. Okay? So, you have here proportional deduction. It's actually 8 million. Bakit 8 million? Ito. This actually initial basis 8 million over gross estate. Gross estate is 80 million. Documented property and exclusive property, this is 80 million, di ba? So, 8 million divide 80 million times 13 million. So, the 13 million is actually the multiplier. This is the sum of the community ordinary deduction and the exclusive ordinary deduction. Di ba? That's 13 million. So, you have 8 million over 80 million times 13 million. So you have 1.3 million. So the final basis would be 6.7 million. So since 3.5 years ago ito, so you'll use 40%. So the vanished deduction is 2,680,000. Yung sa car naman, value taken is 4 million. Whichever is lower ito, between the fair market value time of donation and the fair market value time of death. So 4 million. So, wala siyang mortgage paid. And then, yung proportional deduction, the initial basis is 4 million, divide 80 million na gross estate, times multiplier na 13 million. So, you have 650,000 as your second deduction. So, ang reason why wala siya gilamp, no? Kasi ilahin mo ko siya grade. No? So, if pwede lang naman ilamp pag compute pag vanishing, pag same lang ang rate. Pero pag separate na rate, dili pwede. No? Kasi ito, you'll use 80%. Kasi 18 months ito. So, therefore, 2 to 3 years. So, use 80%. So, the vanishing deduction is 2,680,000. Okay? So, we're done with computing the vanishing deduction. No? So, let's compute na for the net taxable estate. So you have gross estate of 80 million, which comprise of the exclusive property of 30 million and cumulative property of 50 million. Then you have ordinary deductions na 8.5. So i-deduct mo siya sa exclusive property. You have community property or community deduction of 4.5. Deduct mo siya sa community property. So yung vanishing deduction, since these are part of the exclusive property, then ano siya, sa exclusive property po din deduct. At total 5,360,000. Ang sum nito, no? 2,680 plus 2,680. That's 5,360,000. So your net taxable estate before special deduction, you have 16,140,000 for exclusive property and 45.5 million for community property. So you have 61,640,000. Okay? And then you'll deduct family home, 10 million. Since part siya sa exclusive property, so hindi mo siya i-divide 2. Pag part siya sa communal property or community property or conjugal property, diha mo divide 2 before ni mo siya i-compare to 10 million. So since this is exclusive property man, so the fair market value is 12 million, but the maximum amount that pwede i-claim as deduction is only 10 million. So then you have standard deduction of 5 million. Then SSS, share of the surviving spouse, which is 1/2 of the net community property, which is 45.5 million divide 2. You have 22,750,000. Okay? So the net state, no, we have ang net state is gross state minus ordinary deductions, no? Then ang net taxable state naman is 61,640,000 less family home 10 million, har deduction of 5 million, and share of the surviving spouse of 22,750,000. So we have 23,890,000, which is your net taxable estate. So estate tax due is actually 6%, diba, of your net taxable estate. So 23,890,000 times 6%, that's your net or that's your state tax due. Okay? So yan siya. Okay, so our last illustration is actually a computation of a married non-resident alien resident. Okay? So you have exclusive properties 5.6 million, conjugal properties sa Philippines 4.2 million, then conjugal properties abroad 18.2 million. We have claim against insolvent person 1 million, funeral expenses 200, judicial 850, claim against the state 1.5 million, and losses occurring 3 months after the death due to fire, assuming the properties included in the Philippines 1.7 million. Donation mortis causa to Makati City Hall 1.8 million, and family home 10 million, and then sa deduction 10 million. Hindi pang claim and expenses. Okay? We have here exclusive property niya 5.6 million, community properties 4.2 million, therefore the gross state is 9.8 million. Then we have, diba, allowable deduction per rate between the Philippine gross state and the world gross state, but not all deductions are to be prorated. So prorated lang dito is itong claim against insolvent person, claim against the state, and losses. So yung claim against insolvent person na 1 million, claim against the state na 1.5 million, and losses na 1.7 million, the total 4.2 million. So yun yung allowable proportional, no? So 9.8 million, bakit 9.8? That's actually the gross state sa Philippines, 5.6 plus 4.2 over 28 million. That's the sum of the exclusive property and conjugal property within the Philippines plus conjugal properties abroad, which is 18.2. So ang sum niyan is 28 million times yung allowable deduction natin na prorated 4.2 million. Yan. So i-deduct mo siya sa community property. So pag silent, basta claim against stolen person, claim against the state, and the losses, assume mo siya na sa conjugal property or community property or conjugal property. And transfer for public use, pag silent, ano yan siya, exclusive kasi you cannot transfer naman property without the consent of the spouse, no? So yun siya, pag silent, exclusive property siya, or exclusive property niya iyahanggi doon. Okay? So we have net state before special deductions. For exclusive, we have 5.6 less 1.8, 3.8. For community property, that's 4.2 less 1,470,000. You have 2,730,000. Okay? So we have net state of 6,530,000. Okay? So dili siya allowed sa salary deduction for 500,000 lang, but di siya allowed of family home. Then allowed siya of share of the surviving spouse, which is half of the net community property. So 2,730 divided 2, that's 1,365. So the net taxable estate is 4,665,000. Okay? Times 6%, then your state tax due is 279,900. Okay, so we have discussed na the state tax due of a married and unmarried resident. So we're done with estate tax, no? So thank you everyone.